You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 263 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by HandsOnGloves, the all-in-one revolutionary bathing, grooming, shedding gloves. Horsemanship Radio is a part of the family of the Horse Radio Network. On today's show, we have Monty, who's going to share a little bit about the LA premiere that he attended over the weekend for The Cowboy and the Queen. And we have a veteran who also spent the weekend with us and came at great expense and great effort to see what it's all about with these horses. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month, and I have my producer, Jen, the horsewoman, with me today, too. How are you?
Greetings. How's Debbie?
I'm good. I'm really good. Oh, my gosh. We're so pumped right now, Jen.
So define premiere for me. I was talking to somebody in the Horse Radio Network Auditors Facebook page the other day, and they were confused about what premiere meant.
Premiere. Well, I suppose in a dictionary it means first of, but in this case it means it's the first day that the movie was released. And it's a documentary. I don't know, I'm calling it a movie because she wrote it like a movie. Andrea Nevins and Graham Clark are responsible for creating this documentary, and she wrote it as a juxtaposition between the Queen of England's life, or we shouldn't even say the Queen of England because it's really the monarchy, England, including Wales and Scotland and all that. You know, she was queen of all. And so a premiere is when everybody dresses up and you go to some marquee in Los Angeles somewhere. And we didn't have a red carpet in this case. We were more cool than that. But but we filled the theater and could have filled it 3 times over, I think, because it was sold out a while back. And everybody was there, like film critics from Los Angeles Times, etc.
So is the premiere something that's by invitation only, or
No.
is it something that the tickets go on sale and whoever can snap them up, snaps them up?
There you go. That's exactly right. It is the first time that it's released in the theaters. And so there was a premiere night across the United States from New York all the way to California. And it was it ended up being somewhere in the 20 cities. And we were hoping it would be at least in 2 cities. So we were ecstatic. It was going to be 12 cities, and then suddenly it was 19 cities, and then it went over the top of that before it opened, which was fabulous because a lot of movies don't even make it to the theaters these days. Some just go straight into distribution, and we would have been fine with that, actually. It's wonderful news, but it was even better that people got to see it without having to subscribe to something. They bought a ticket old-fashioned way, bought popcorn, and sat down and watched the film. The cool part of that, Jen, is that you get to hear everybody's reaction. You hear them laugh and cry and all those things. And it's fun that they get to do that with Monty in the crowd and the Andrea Nevins, as I said, and Graham Clark. And then we had an LA critic there who was the moderator. He writes for the LA Times, and movie critic. And then we also had the founder of Masterclass, and they are owned. Masterclass is an online learning platform, and they're owned by Greenwich Entertainment and Greenwich
I heard
Entertainment.
of Masterclass. Yes.
You've heard of
That. I've done a couple of those. They're really fun.
They are cool.
Yeah.
They're very, very high end and very educational. You know, it's like Jodie Foster teaches acting and Ron Howard teaches directing. And
That's the one I did.
Did you?
It was fabulous. It was
Look at
fabulous.
you. Yeah, because you're in production. And I listened to the Jane Goodall and, things like that too. So, so it was really fun to do the premiere and, dress up and do all that. But it was even more fun meeting people and hearing their reaction to the film. But the best part was that Dad's this week has been crazy busy, and last week too, with interviews. And so they've been interviewing him about his relationship with the Queen and the movie and the whole thing, as you can imagine. But there's one question that was just eating at me that they didn't really ask. So I decided I'm going to ask it of him. And I put it on this show. I'm not waiting for you guys anymore.
No spoilers. No, don't say what it is.
Nope.
Don't say what it is.
Tell you.
No
Won't
spoilers.
Tell you. No. But we also have our second, our interviewee is a veteran who came for our Horse Sense and Healing this past weekend and then stayed, Jen, for our Gentling Wild Horse course. Didn't plan to, but just did it. He was one of those that just drop everything and do it because you can. And so he's a fascinating guy, and you're going to love hearing from him and his story.
Cool. And we're going to get right to it after we hear from our title sponsor, Hands On Gloves. Hands On Gloves has been supporting the Horsemanship Radio show for some years now.
Mm-hmm.
And for some years now, I keep finding new uses for my Hands On Gloves.
Oh, good.
The other day, I was here in Florida, where we live. The biting insects are still quite aggressive, even in the autumn. We don't lose our insect population until about October. Yeah. And Scooter, Glenn's Hackney pony, he gets really hairy in the winter. He doesn't realize he lives in Florida. He was born in Florida. He's lived here his whole life. But he doesn't know that. So when we put fly spray on him, it's fly. I like to put the fly spray on and brush the fly spray into their coat.
Yeah.
Because that way it covers more of the hair. Because if there's not a droplet of fly spray on that hair, that fly will land on that hair.
Of course.
And I discovered it works fabulously. I give him a spritz, and I put on my hands-on glove, and I give my glove just one spritz, and I brush the whole pony. And I give the glove a spritz about every 1/3 of the pony as I go around. And boy, is that effective. And then he doesn't roll either, because he doesn't have that itchy, scratchy, you just put spray stuff on me.
And it smells.
You know how it is? You put fly spray on them and immediately they roll.
Yeah, I know. I think they're trying to help, but
they're trying to help. But that way he's like, I just got brushed. That was lovely. I don't need to roll. Mm-hmm. And it was very effective for getting that fly spray onto those hair shafts in that thick coat. And then I thought, when I'm not using fly spray and I need to get coat conditioner worked into him, because you want to get that deep down in there. What a great way to do it. Because then I can use the hands-on glove instead of using it like a curry round and round and round. Mm-hmm. I use it like a dandy brush, and then I follow the lay of the hair. But it really gets the conditioner down into their hair for the dry skin in the wintertime. Yes.
Yep. I've been putting on argan oil. Do you know that nice, yummy? Yeah, you can buy it in bulk on Amazon, and it smells so good, and the flies don't like it. It's great.
No.
I've had it all over Poppy.
Gosh, send me your Amazon link.
I will. But Hands On Gloves is a perfect vehicle for delivering these beautiful, lovely oils and fly sprays and things that we have to coat them all in. So good job. Thank you. Another tip.
Another tip. And you can get Hands-On Gloves at your local tack and feed supplier, or you can go to handsongloves.com and pick them up there. They come in several sizes. So there's something to fit every sized hand, and they come in pairs. So you basically get 2 for 1.
That's right. People magazine writes, Monty Roberts, famously known as the Horse Whisperer, reflects on how he introduced his training methods to the UK and the world with the support of the late Queen Elizabeth in The Cowboy and the Queen, premiering in theaters September 2024. A new documentary film brings to life the extraordinary friendship between Queen Elizabeth and a cowboy from California. The film delves into the extraordinary connection between 2 horse lovers who, despite coming from vastly different worlds, were both profoundly shaped by the impact of the Second World War. The pair became so close that Roberts was invited to the final, deeply moving moment of her funeral at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, an invitation that cemented their closeness. Well, welcome back, Monty Roberts. I've been listening to all the interviews, all the Q's and all the A's, the answers that you've been giving. And I feel like there's one question missing in a lot of these interviews. People want to know about your relationship with the Queen. They want to know what you had in common, how the documentary outlines that, whether it was, a accurate I guess, rendition of a 30-plus-year-old relationship. But the one thing that you've done is you've invested a lot of time in this documentary, and I would say even resources into this documentary, in that you spent time with your videos and your photographs and everything else. That would be a resource that you've given to the documentary, and people are fascinated by that, and they're interested in seeing it. They want to hear more about your story and about the Queen's story as well. It's a juxtaposition, her story and your story. My question today, though, is what do you want to see come from this movie being released, this documentary being released? What would you like to see it do?
Well, I think it's fair to say to you that from a child of 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age, my mind went to a particular set of words that I've said over tens of thousands of times. I want the world to be a better place for horses and for people too. So I never thought that it would go so people-ish. My life went into horses, and it was 90% horses. And I was giving lessons to some kids and helping them come along to see the value of nonviolent training. But I wasn't making a big change in the world until I met the Queen, and until certain things happened that brought me to a position whereby people thought it was worth telling the world about. So telling the world about it was always in my mind, but I wasn't able to do it until I had some connection with somebody like Queen Elizabeth II. Now, I did that, and as it worked, she was more inclusive of me than I might have been of her. I was always kind of stepping back to her, which doesn't make a great deal of surprise to anybody.
Deference. You're giving her deference, sure.
I was giving deference to her. But she was pushing to get my story to the world. And if the Queen's pushing for it, something's going to happen. Well, it is happening. And don't you know that this is the finish of my life with great pride and a sense of accomplishment, mostly because of my connection with Queen Elizabeth II.
So the documentary is to carry this forth. Why do you think it took nearly 30 years for it to go from the book to a documentary?
My principles, my system, is so far-fetched for most people that they put it off for, well, some people want to kill me because their business goes down because they beat horses up. And so it takes time. Nothing is going to happen that is this fetching to the world's interest. Nothing's going to happen overnight. And I know that, and I'm pushing as hard as I can to just answer the questions that come my way. I'm not making this up. I don't go out and look for people to do this. They come to me now. And that speeds up the process of taking it to the world. There's still a lot of people out there that do not believe in my concepts. And I have to live with that, and I respect them. They're human beings, and they have their own ideas. But the horses are proving that nonviolence is the way to go. And my hope is that that goes to humans too.
Yeah, you had mentioned in one of the interviews that was one of your biggest surprises, is that how much humans needed this almost more than horses.
Yeah, well, I was born in 1935, and when I was 5 years old, Hitler was going to change the world, and Japan was going to take it over with him. So we moved into a world without much going on with horses for 5 years, and then that war was over, and everybody could see how much it damaged many people, killed many people, killed ideas about what people should do, but brought in new ideas of what people should do. And fortunately for me, nonviolence was the thing they were trying to bring into the world. And we're still working on that. There's still the potential for violence, but I wish they'd put a harness on me and may take me to the Middle East and cause me to show them how stupid they are to kill one another, trying to make it a better world. Mm-hmm. They think they're trying to make it a better world, and we know, anybody that has a brain knows, that it's making a worse world when you start killing others for their opinion, to take their opinion away. Hitler found it out and committed suicide after realizing what he had done. The Japanese people went through a terrible close to the Second World War, and I watched my friends go to prison that I was in school with that were Japanese citizens in the early 40s. So I'm just continuing to do the best I can to take what I believe the world has to know and eventually discover and act upon, or else it's going to be very, very bad.
Yeah, so the 30 years, I guess, is a drop in the bucket compared to the some 6,000 years we've been working with horses, training on horses, riding horses, using horses. So maybe we shouldn't be so impatient. But do you feel like you've really laid the foundation now that this could go forward so that enough people will recognize the value?
I think we're right close to that tipping point. And the last survey I heard was that we might be 16 or 17% of the world now with horses going into training without violence. And if we can make it over 20%, that's critical mass. And this is so good. And it's not only just nice and fair and kind. It's not just that, it's better.
Yeah.
The horses are better at what they want to do, at what we want to do with them.
Yeah.
So I think it'll go faster when I'm gone than anybody could have ever imagined, because my influence is reaching out to people that really have something to do. Holland is a big factor. They were the beginners of horsemanship out of Africa. The people that built the pyramids were the beginners of horsemanship within Africa. And when they started to ship them out, there was this tipping point. That's just to make horses a part of competition. Mm-hmm. That is not to say they should be treated with complete nonviolent training. Mm-hmm. But it seems to be happening.
Well, that's great. We hope that a lot of people will get to see this movie, documentary. She wrote it like a movie, I like to say. Andrea Nevins, Graham Clark have been instrumental in drumming the drum, as they say, to get the word out. I think it is a passion project for them as well. And we're getting reviews back from the movie. So we'll be sharing that out in future episodes too, about people sharing what the impact was on them. And it's pretty varied so far. It really has been across the board: horse people, non-horse people, people in counseling, people in education, people in families.
Isn't it a great experience to have Andrea Nevins come to this farm knowing zero about a horse? Zero. Why she came, God only knows. But she had an idea that this nonviolent thing could catch on, I think. And she let me take her to my training techniques for her documentary. She brought some children along, and had them on the camera. She allowed me to work with horses on the camera. And it's first grade. It's the first grade. But we never even had a grade before Andrea Nevins came along and said, I want this to go to the world. And I didn't think it was going to go to the world. It was a little documentary. Homeward bound, just stays around. Well, it's branching out and it is going to the world. And these people calling in from Europe wanting to know, what is all this? You watch what happens in Iceland and Scandinavia, throughout Scandinavia and Holland, and then Italy and Spain, Portugal, who were very violent with horses, extremely violent. Asia, extremely violent with horses. There's still footage of Asian people beating horses half to death to get them broken. And it isn't necessary. It's dangerous. It's ridiculous to think that that works. It wouldn't be any different, really, from going to a grammar school and saying that those first graders, they need to get the hell beat out of them for 4 or 5 days till they're beaten down to the point where they'll do whatever you tell them to do. That would be good, wouldn't it? No, it would not. But that's what we've been doing for 200 years.
At least.
I have gone through the caves in Southern Europe, one after another, between my demonstrations that I was doing. And I went to those caves with an open mind, not knowing what the heck they did with horses 200 years ago, but finding out very shortly that it was pathetically invasive. It was pathetically violent and wasn't very effective. They thought it was effective because they had those races with kids bareback on the horses and they went 2 miles or something. And they thought it was fantastic. And there's still people that think it's fantastic to demand from a horse and force a horse to do it rather than try to help them be a partner with you in the work that you want to do. But it's going to happen. My life has been worthwhile. I'll soon meet the Queen again. So stay tuned.
Angel Bravo dropped everything and drove 25 hours from Texas to California when he heard that he was accepted to participate in Monty Roberts' Horse Sense and Healing program. A combat veteran who appreciates horses, he asked his adult son to join him on this healing journey. Here is his story.
Hi, Angel Bravo. Very excited to have you here, and I'm more excited that you came with your son as well. So it's a generational thing I see going. What brought you here first? How did you hear about us, Monty?
I'm a disabled vet, and I've been trying to discover for the last 12 years something that keeps me motivated, something that makes me wake up in the morning and want to go. So I've done many things, from balloon art to a Girl Scout troop leader to
Is that right?
a basketball coach, and nothing. Well, balloon art did keep me focused for a little bit, but then I kept on having these visions, and my therapist said that it was pony fever. So I went into searching about horses because I wanted to learn about horses, be around horses. And that was about 6 months ago. And when I started asking questions and meeting people, I liked being around horses. I just didn't like what they were doing with horses when I'd ask them to teach me how to train a horse. And so I started separating from the idea of having a horse. And every day I prayed, and I wanted to know that there was other ways to train a horse without what I was seeing. I was seeing them hurt horses, and I didn't want to go to that stage because that's not where I wanted to take my therapy with. I see everything that I do as therapy for myself to recover myself from PTSD.
So a little background, you did serve, correct?
Yes, I served both Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And
were you deployed?
I was deployed 3 times, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. And you came back and then retired, or what happened?
I came back and they kept on calling me back in because my MOS, there's very few people signing up for that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I had no choice but to keep on living and reliving my experiences, not just out in the field, but retraining new soldiers to do what I did. Mm-hmm. And that just never went away.
Right. Yeah. Good. So we've got that behind us now. And what do you think drew you to horses then?
My first contact with a horse felt very different. I could not hide from the horse. I could not lie to the horse. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to be anybody but me to the horse. Mm. And the horse just followed me. It chose me. Mm. The lady at the program said that she'd never seen anybody that horse react to that like that to anybody, because that horse that picked me was kind of a little bit wild. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want anybody near it because she wanted to get a trainer to come in and calm it down. And that's when I saw what a trainer would do. Yeah. And that's what scared me, that I didn't want to be the one doing traditional.
Do you think that trainer was probably going to not calm that horse down?
I was more scared of him hurting the horse than anything.
Right.
For the lack of the horse being with me.
Yeah.
And I felt so much pressure where I wanted to quit the program because I didn't want the horse to continue going through that every day.
Yeah, you're such a server. And this is what I find in military personnel, is that you have hearts bigger than most. And that's why you're braver, too. And so I appreciate that you were trying to protect the horse, too. What do you think, what would be, if you could go back to that program with some knowledge, do you think you could help that program with? Obviously, the trainers are hard to untrain, but is there anything that you could do?
Yes. When I started looking for other means of helping that horse, I discovered Monty's join up.
Right.
And the first time I saw it on video, I believed it. And I felt it was what I had been praying for, a different way of doing what I needed to get done to be able to help a horse that was going to help me heal. Mm-hmm. And now that I came to the program here, I see it in person, and it's even a greater feeling of joy knowing that there is a way for me to join up and to work with horses without causing more damage. Most of the horses that I've worked with have been rescue horses. Mm-hmm. And some of them we have the stories too, and some of them we don't. But you can tell by their actions on different expressions that they do towards us. For example, a barrel horse is very jumpy when he first gets home or to the new place. And so now I'm better at seeing different signs based on Monty's theories of why it's doing the licking and why it's doing the jumping and why it's doing the kicking. And it's not that it's a mean horse, it's that we're doing something that's causing this. So it's a very different perspective that I'm taking home. And I'm going to show my other vets that are with me in that program that it is what we're doing, not what the horse wants to do, that is causing the reactions of kicking and biting and jumping. And so it excites me to come home after training to be able to help my fellow, airmen and soldiers to learn how to not just cope with our issues, but to help a horse recover as well alongside with us as they're training us. The horse is teaching us to be a better person. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Can you take us through the Friday? So you got here last Friday. I know you drove 24 hours or something from
25 hours from Texas.
25 hours from Texas. You're crazy. With your son. And tell me, you were probably half asleep at this point, but on Friday, how did it start for you?
Well, we didn't sleep. We drove straight through. and we got here an hour before the program started. But I don't know if it was the excitement to be here and meeting Monty or the excitement to actually see the join up in person. But it gave me a sense of relief that me believing it from watching it the first time was confirmed that it was real, that it wasn't a show, that it wasn't a setup, or that the horse was planned or prepped. I walked to the pen with the girl that the intern that brought it. Yeah. I helped it catch it. I walked it here. I saw it go into the pen. There was no trick. There was no nothing. And then it just happens right before my eyes, and everybody else is watching. It was just...
And Dad did that demo, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
It was magical. It's just...
that's wonderful.
It just reinforced that there is a better way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then did you get a little worried, like, oh, and we're going to do that next?
No.
No? Good.
I wasn't worried. I was like that barrel horse, the barrel racing, just waiting to go in too.
You were anxious.
And Mr. Monty's like, no. You got to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't just mimic.
Yeah. So Friday is spent educating a little bit. What were some of those things that you learned on Friday?
So on Friday, they did a class on communication.
We did, yeah.
It was something I'd never heard or seen before. It was a yes and no communication, and we saw how humans, just like horses, can communicate just by movement without words. And when you have good communication and lead the horse or the other person in the right question with a simple answer, yes or no, it's a better way of communicating than just screaming or hurting somebody.
Or even complicating things. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Over-instructing things.
Yes, over-instructing.
Over-instructing things. I think most of us get overwhelmed when there's too many instructions. And I think our expectations next to a horse, we want to tell them in words what we expect of, but they don't understand our language. And so that first day, I learned a lot. And as I was watching the class evolved, in my mind, I processed it, how that could help us at home between my son and I. He came with me, and our relationship has not, until now, it was not the best. I was always pretty rough on him, not as bad as Monty's father, but, the typical army guy, you do as I say, or, you do push-ups kind of thing. And so I realized that my communication for the last 44 years, had been a bit off. And if I would have applied this theory of yes, no, and guided him step by step rather than expect him to read my mind, I think our life together would have been a whole lot different.
Yeah, but you're here, and he's here.
This last week, many things have changed between my son and I. Now that we're here, we learn to communicate through that yes-no process. And I feel I'm being a better dad to him now. And he's more acceptance of me asking of things from him. For example, joining me for dinner or just being around and hanging out.
Yeah.
So it's changed me a lot. The 3 days I've been here has really made a difference based on those theories of Mr. Monty of how to better communicate even without words and just motion and simple communication as yes or no.
Yeah, it's a wonderful game. We call it the yes-no game, and it is so good between people as well. Let's jump into why you stayed for the Gentling Wild Horse course. So a little history on what you wanted to do, but also what is this course doing for you? So
before I heard about the Horse Sense program, the vet program, I found the Wild Horse Gentling program that he had. But I wasn't sure if I could be here, if I could make it. After I finished the program for the horse sense, I got the opportunity to join the program for the wild horse gentling program. And it gives me a good foundation for a program that I'm trying to start myself. It's called Bravo 6 Horsemanship. I had thought about this program prior to being here, if and only if I found a way to do it without hurting more animals, especially Mustangs. I followed BLM for the last 6 months to different locations where they do adoptions. And I realized that more than half of the people that came or that were attracted to the adoptions had minimum or no experience with Mustangs. But the program made it seem as for $125 and change, you could adopt a horse, and they would give you minimum instructions. They still give you a minimum instruction, a little paper that tells you how to feed it, how to take care of it, basic stuff. But once I started working with horses, I realized that it's more than just, feed it twice a day or 10% of his weight, 5% of his weight if it's a certain age. It's more than just that. And so I started building this program in my mind, or designing this business plan to learn how to work with Mustangs. And the only one I found that really caught my attention was Mr. Monty. And so I came to this program, and with this program, I build a base for the foundation of Bravo 6, which will be learning about Mustangs. I will be returning for the instructor courses. Mm-hmm. So my projected start time would be about 2.5 years, because I plan to properly train, at the same time build a training course that I can travel with. I'm a performer by trade, so I'm used to traveling throughout the country, and I want to follow BLM, not to harass, but to inform people that there are other ways than to just take a horse home, a Mustang home, put it in a pen, get frustrated with it, and then readopt it. Or the other option is take it home, not handle it, give it to a trainer that's going to do the traditional training and might or might not have a horse at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And I want to give them the experience of what Monty gave me, which is join up, and to give them a chance to see that out here in Monty's training, there is a way of learning how to take care of your Mustang or your domestic horse in a more sensible way rather than traditional way. I'm not going against traditional people. I'm just giving an option to better join with your animal.
Well said.
It's not a battle against them, and it's not a battle against BLM. I just want to be able to give people the option to see what's out there. Yeah. There is other options.
Yeah. You and I were talking about this. We were just at the gentling facility that we have here, and there's 4 Mustangs that you guys are working with right now, 7 students, I think, with the interns. And we were talking about it's so easy to adopt a horse for $125 and even maybe take care of them. But the training part of it is so difficult for so many people who don't know what they're getting into. They've got that 12-year-old daughter who's dying to have a horse and just will do anything for that horse, and I'm sure she or he would, but they don't have the tools and the knowledge. So I think I hear you saying that you want to become certified.
Yes.
And so in depth in these concepts of gentle training. That's fantastic. And I love the idea that you want to be a conduit for people who are like, now what? Or maybe I'm in trouble here. I couldn't even get the halter on when I got home. So what do I do next? I think that's a fabulous way to help those adopters and maybe even get more horses adopted out if their confidence level goes up. Because what happens to these horses if they don't get gentled or they don't get adopted after you have to hold them for a year when you've adopted them? Yeah.
Yes, you have to hold them for a year. Most people, as I was talking to one of the BLM personnel there, because I followed them for 5 or 6 cities, just because I wanted to be around Mustangs. I didn't have a pen at the time to put them in, so I couldn't take one home. So I would follow them on their website and go to the town that they'd be doing the adoption, and I'd hang out there for the 2 days, 6 hours long every day. And I became friends with one of the BLM people, and he's a really nice guy. He was the one that told me that, some adopters don't know what they're doing, and they try not to give it to those, but then you can't avoid the adoption because you have to be open to everybody. And they have a 3-strike program, meaning that they go out to if the horse goes out to 3 different spots, 3 different adoption locations, and they don't get adopted, then there is an option to go, or they send them out to an open field with a larger ranch, but then the chances of that horse having a forever home is not really there. They make it seem as if the ranch can handle, the forever 20 years, 25 years, or however long the horse lives. Their life increases because you feed them. In the wild, their life is reduced, but it's like putting them back in another open field in the wild. So their chances of living long will probably not be there. And the amount of horses that are being roundup continues. It doesn't end. It's not like we don't have an abundance of Mustangs. I don't agree with the roundup, but I am grateful that I was able to adopt 2 of them right now, my first 2. But that's what got me thinking, how can we increase the awareness of how to take care of this Mustang, especially when you have parents or somebody like me that just, has the crazy idea and pony fever to get one, and reduce the risks on the new person with a horse, and also reduce the risk and better ability to train the horse without having just been passed from home to home and never finding a forever home.
That's right. Yeah. It is a dangerous life for these horses, not only if they're brought in at a late, if they're older, it's harder to adopt them out too. So that's the ones that end up in the 3 strikes sometimes too. And this is starting to sound like an advocacy podcast, but it really is more about your life and what you're able to stand up, hold your hand up and say, I want to help. And I love that because we feel like we have a divided world a little bit of those that want to keep the horses in the holding pens or continue the roundups, and the rest of us who are trying to say, gosh, can't we do something about reducing those that are in the holding pens? But at least you're an in-between saying, well, let's get them adopted out, but let's make those numbers greater. And so I appreciate for that. And I appreciate the education you're going to go through in the next couple of years. It's going to be hard. Are you prepared for that mentally?
Yes. I gave up everything last week. I prayed, and I don't feel scared with this journey. I feel grateful, and I feel energized to continue learning and going home and practicing and coming back again for more training and going home and practicing, because I want to make sure that what I'm doing is helping the horse, not hurting the horse. So I'm ready. I'm ready for a new start and living in a new world.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited.
I'm very excited for you, and I'm excited for the horses' lives that you're going to touch. I say to a lot of people that I believe that the future of horses is in therapy, because there's so many of them and there's so many people that are in need of that gentle, those lessons that the horses teach us. So I think you're probably in that camp too, that horses their qualities are so great for so many people. And I felt that over the weekend when we were here, that you guys were feeling that from the horses.
And what surprised me the most is that my son had one contact, which was a weekend ago, when I took him I took him with me to the horse therapy on Saturday before we got here, because I needed him to drive me there. I didn't feel like driving that day. And he saw what I did with the horse, and he approached the horse and he liked it. And then I bring him here 5 days later. Yeah. And without me telling him my plans, what I just spoke about, he reiterated last night. He's like, Dad, we can continue this. We can do it. And he tells me exactly what my plans were. So I'm just blessed to know that he saw it without me pushing it to him. Just like we're training these horses without pushing them into anything. And he wants to be an advocate too for the horses, and he wants to be part of this program, this new program, Bravo 6. So I'm really excited. So that'll be 2 new trainers here in the U.S. that will be
That's right.
going forward.
Angel, bravo. You're an angel. You're just wonderful for horses. Thank you so much.
And that to me reinforced Monty's theory that with minimum words, we can make this world a more safer place, a less violent place, and a more productive place.
Couldn't be more timely.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place than mine. The magic in the language of the herd.
Dear Monty, do you think it's beneficial to ride bareback? Monty's answer. The better riders we are, the better our chances our horses have to perform the tasks we request. Riding bareback is one good way to learn to be a better rider. I rode bareback extensively as a child, and I feel that it was helpful in training me to be constantly aware of the position of my horse's body and his movements as he negotiated turns, lead changes, and stops. I am a firm believer that if we are to be good riders, we should learn to ride both bareback and with a saddle. I further believe that we should at least know the basic principles for the correct riding in as many styles of saddle as possible. Western, English hunt seat, dressage, park seat, Australian stock saddle, and even Argentinian gaucho saddle. Knowledge is something none of us can have enough of. I even recommend that young riders should use a bareback pad at some stage in their education, as it is quite helpful for leg position.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to meeting some new friends, 2-legged and 4-legged. On the 29th of this month is the Mountain Trail Play Day in Solvang, California. Then in October, 7 through 11, we have a Monty's special training. That's where you need to be. Very cool horses we have chosen for that, October 7 through 11. And then on October 20, we have a Horsemanship 101. That one is filling fast too. So jump in there if you've ever desired to learn the foundational fun of horsemanship, Monty's way. And then long-term planners, December 9 through 21, we have the introductory course of horsemanship. And that's going to be your first segment of the certification.
Woohoo! And you can find all of that and more at MontyRoberts.com. It's sort of everything Monty Roberts central. You can also find this podcast at MontyRoberts.com, along with the Monty Roberts store, where you can stream past year's movements. You can still get DVDs too, can't you?
We do not of the movement, but that's a link. But yes,
but you can get other DVDs. You can get the dually halters. I think there's bits on there, all kinds of stuff. So check it out.
All the training is DVDs too. Still,
it's
for
all
those
there.
of us still have a DVD machine.
There, and there is a link to the Monty Roberts University, so you can sign up for that for a mere schmear $10
or less. Month
or a month, and they're really cleverly designed. Each lesson, it goes through the lesson, but at the end of the lesson there's kind of a little quiz, so that you can be sure that you paid attention to all the right parts, because a lot of times you watch a video and there is some important detail that you didn't pay attention to. You didn't even see it. It's like, I didn't even notice that. At the end, you have that little quiz to make sure you absorbed all the right parts.
Yeah, exactly, because it's in a series. And sometimes you want to have that knowledge before you move on to the next one in there. But it isn't critical, because if you click on the wrong answer, it goes Not that one. Try again.
Right. And you can keep watching the video over and over and over again, which is what I end up doing because I never pay attention to the right part. I'm putting my hand up.
Either I'm looking at the color of the horse, or like, did they clip his ears, or what? I'm
looking for like, oh my gosh, it's dry in California. Oh, look at that cowboy hat band. Isn't that cool? Yeah,
exactly. No, you can't get all the details first. That's why we made them in little 9-10 minute segments so that you can watch them over and over again. But it's all 24/7 streaming. You keep watching them over and over again. So there's over 800 on there right now. And we add one every week, have done so since 2009, Jen. We've never missed a week, and we love them. We have a series going on right now called Ace and His Manners. And Ace, was getting away with a few things with Mama. And Mama brought him to a Monty special training, which we're going to have in a couple of weeks. And Mama was very wise, because we don't charge those people anything to bring their horses here. If they have an appropriate horse, they are front and center and have the, queen's seat right there. And they get to learn what Monty does with these horses to get them to be good boys and girls.
There we go. And you can find all of that at MontyRoberts.com. You can also give the kind folks at Flag Is Up Farms a call, 805-688-6288. And by the way, the phone number is prominently displayed at MontyRoberts.com as well.
Yes, you can find it there too. You're right.
There you go. And for details about today's show, horsemanshipradio.com. That's just the podcast. That's the only thing you're going to find there. And you can find links, photos, and more details about today's guests and topics. We'd love your feedback, and we'd love you to follow us on social media. Facebook, it's Monty Roberts, the one with a little blue check mark. Twitter, as well as Instagram, it's Monty_Roberts.
That's right. And you know what I might add too, if anybody's got all the way down to the bottom of this podcast, is that we added YouTube. So we followed your example at HRN, and we added all of these podcasts on our YouTube page as well. So all the way 200 and what are we now? 263 is this? Are up there. This one's not yet, but
so that's yet another way to stream the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's fabulous.
So if you're used to a YouTube, and I want to thank our sponsors. You mentioned him briefly. Jay Michelson at HandsOnGloves is institution for us. Thank you, Jay, and your team for making a great product and for supporting that product through the marketing on our podcast, Horsemanship Radio. And be sure to visit all the other great shows too on the Horse Radio Network at www.horseradionetwork.com. Until next time, have many happy horse hours.